Hey guys, this is Gilbert with Interactive Utopia, and today we're going to be using PHP to connect to the Google Text-to-Speech API to convert text or a string into audio. So let's see how that's going to work. Let's try out this example.
This is an example of how to convert text into audio using Google Text-to-Speech API and PHP.
All right, so let's see how we can do that. Let's go. Alright guys, so now you saw how that example worked out. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. Once again, I'm Gilbert with Interactive Utopia. If you have any questions or any comments, don't forget to leave them in the comment section below. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel. And if you need any help to the projects, please get in contact with me and I'll try to help you out the best that I can. I want to start by telling you that all this code, everything that we're going to be talking about today, it's already on GitHub. So you can go and access it on github.com. My user is Gilberto Cortez, and then the project name is Google APIs with PHP. So all the code, everything that we're going to be talking about, it's going to be in there if you need to use it as an example for your project. I would like to start by telling you that in order to use this API, you have to enable it on Google Cloud Developers Console. So make sure to log in and enable it, because if not, it's definitely not gonna work. Okay, so make sure to take that as the first step. As well, there is a documentation online on what we're going to be talking about. I'll be sure to put the links down below. That way, if you need to read a little bit more, you can go online and read about it. But do know that there is more information out there. And let's go and take a look at the code. So I'm going to start by telling you, we're using PHP and curl to make this API connection, make the API request. And so what we're going to be talking about is PHP. And we're going to be starting with starting the server session. As you're going to be seeing on past videos, when the user logs in, we're starting the access token on these on the session variable. So we have to make sure that we're able to access it. So we got to start the server session. Okay, that's the first step. Secondly, I like to display all of the errors on the document because we are on development stage. So if there's anything that's going on, that way you can see the problem. It's going to tell you on certain line there's an issue, or it just makes it a little bit more convenient. Again, we're using curl to connect to the API. I'm using my custom class that I created. So if you need a copy of it, again, go to GitHub, and if you need more information of it, go to the past videos and you can learn a little bit more on how it works. But basically, this, we are including the class, the object, and then we are initiating the object on our document. On this, we are passing the access token that we got. Again, we started on the server session, so we're passing that over to the curl class, so that when we make the connection, we're able to connect. It's required for safety reasons, so you got to make sure that you are able to log in and have the proper scope. Talking about scope, from the project that we did last time, you should already have it in there, but if not, you have to make sure that you add this to your login scope. If not, again, it's not going to work. So number one, make sure that your the API it's enabled, and number two, make sure that the scope is being requested when the user logs in. Okay. Once we initiate the call, then we have to, or not initiate the call, but initiate the object, then we generate the parameters that we're going to be sending on the call. So in this scenario, we're just sending text over to the Google Text-to-Speech API. We are sending them the information that it's in English, US English. We're sending them the name of the voice that we want, and the gender that we would like. If you go over to the documentation, there is different voices, different languages, different genders that you can pick from. So you can go in there and you can find, I guess, Great Britain, United States, if you want Spanish, Filipino. So there's quite a bit of different languages, so it should work for whatever project you're doing. And then of course you have to send them the information of what audio you want to get back. In this case we're using OGG, but you can request MP3. There's different formats that you can request it in. I'm just gonna go back to the documentation and talk a little bit more about that. If you go right here, it's gonna tell you basically the main body of what we need to send them. It'll tell you if it's required or if it's not required. Then, for example, when you do the input, you can do text or you can do SSML, which is speech synthesis markup language, and it's just a more fancy way of marking the voice that you're sending over. Like if you want to put space between sentences, if you want them to spell certain words, break time, if you want to play an audio file on there. So there is you can do more than just kind of putting text and just it's sending you the voice back. So you can add more grammar to it. Okay. So that would be basically right in here. So here's an example of how that would look. Right now you heard in the beginning of the video how this would sound. So now let's just copy and paste this. And then instead of the text, make it look a little nicer. So we're going to be saving that. And if we go back to our example, where are we? Here we go. We're going to be refreshing. And let's see if that worked.
The SSML standard is defined by the World Wide Web Consortium.
All right, so if you saw, there was that break in there, and then instead of W3C, it did tell us World Wide Web Consortium. Alrighty, see, even the API speaks a little nicer than me. So, you can just change whatever's here. You can go back to the documentation, see the different things that you can do in there. There's breaks, say as, there's just quite a bit of information on how you can say make them say the voices. So that's basically the configuration. You put all that in JSON, and then you're going to be sending it over, making the curl call. We're using the object again to make the post request. We're sending it over to the URL that the API is telling us. If you go to the documentation up here, that's the URL, and we're using post to send it. And then we're sending the parameters, which is basically this right here. One thing that I do want to mention, if you go back here and if you want to make an example of the request body, then you can always click and it'll tell you, it can give you an example. So for example, if you want to do input and then you want to do text and then you want to do like, whatever text you wanted to use, and then you want to do the next thing is the voice type, and then you want to do like gender, and then you can do male, and you can do like the language code. I think we are in US for English, and then audio config. We can do the audio encoding. the different types that he uses. But again, it'll give you an example on how your JSON request body should look like. You can even copy and paste it if you want to. So makes it easier to make the parameters, the config that you need to be sending over. What I'm doing to display it, you're gonna get the response, and then you're gonna get the bytes to make the audio. You get it on base 64 encoded. So if you need to decode it or something, make sure that you do it. But the beauty of thing is that we're using an audio tag. The HTML is pretty simple, just a container, some h1 tag, a paragraph tag, but we're using an audio tag to display or to represent the audio that we're getting. So normal audio tag, but on the source, we're just telling them it's data, it's audio, the encoding, it's base 64 OGG audio, and then we're passing over the content of that audio. I am storing it in the server session, just like a very quick temporary thing, because one thing you want to remember is every time you refresh or every time you test it out, it's going to be making a call. So if you don't want to do that, just store it in the session, in the server session, and then you can comment out the actual call that it's made. Let's try it. That is made to the Googlo API. So that if you want to test, a change or something that you're doing, you can just refresh it. Oh my goodness, one thing I forgot. So I forgot to take out the when it's replacing the server session. Let's try it one more time. So back to the original state where it made the call, and then you can comment out the call to the Google API. And in this case is where we're storing the response to the server session file, to the response variable. So that way it doesn't get written over when we refresh. So we can save that, and then we refresh it, and then you can play it back. Refresh again.
The SSML standard is defined by the World Wide Web Consortium.
All right, so this time we didn't make a call to the API, but we used what we had stored in our session, in our server session. Another way to do it, I commented out, but you can easily take a look over here, or let's give it a try. So we are going to be storing the file in our local documents. We'll call it test.mp3, and I had it already all good to go. So this is just a different audio tag where the source, instead of the data being stored on the session, just kind of going straight to it, we're saving the file first to the server, and then we're playing it over here on the audio tag. One thing we do need to change, it's the audio encoding, because we have MP3 over here. So we can go back here, and as an example, a way to use this tool, MP3, we can copy that, and then right here where it says audio encoding, we can just paste it, save it, and then one thing we need to do is comment this one down here. So we're going to save that, and let's see if that worked out. So let's refresh it, and now we have
the SSML standard.
There we go.
Is defined by the World Wide Web Consortium.
So if we look and inspect it, you can see where the source is the MP3 file. Okay. So again, if you need to store it, use it. I mean, one good thing is like this, for example, if you're making like a system that it's going to be reusing the same thing, that way you're not spending more API calls, you can save it on the server and then use it for your API, or your application. You can just use that MP3 file or whatever file, however you want to store it, and then use the API as needed for new translations or new text-to-speech conversions. Alrighty, so that way you save some of the cost, because the API does have a cost. I'm using just right now because we're testing it. It's not a quick use, so I think they give you up to 60 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, or we can take a look at the API. So let's see if we go back to Cloud Text to Speech, and then we can go to pricing. And where is pricing? Use cases, all features, pricing. Here we go. Let's go. So you get 0 to 4 million characters when you're using a standard voice, or 1 million characters when you're using one of the nicer WaveNet or Neural Tube voices. So keep it in mind, because after that they're going to start charging you. It's $4 per million characters or $16 per million characters. So again, use as needed. Don't overdo it. Store that whatever audio you're going to be requiring for multiple times, and they'll save you just a bunch of calls. All right, so just be efficient about it. And that's about it. So pretty easy way to going about it. Oh, one thing again, if you're going to store it on the MP3 file, remember the audio, it is base64 encoded, so you have to decode the file before storing it in the MP3 file that you're going to be using at the end. All right, so hope that helps out. If you have any questions, again, don't forget to leave them in the comment section below. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and if you need any help with a project, or if you have any questions, please do reach out, and I'll try to do my best to help you out. All right, thank you, and I'll see you next week on another video. Goodbye.